So that I could create a successful trailer, I put into place Todorov's theory of the idea of the beginning a sense of equilibrium and normality, before entering stages of disruption and disequilibrium, and ending with a final resolution. But my trailer only includes the stages of equilibrium, disruption and disequilibrium, as this ends the trailer on a climax creating an enigma. I felt that this would be most effective way, as these are conventions which I have used and seen in trailers such as The Last Exorcism, The Conjuring and Deliver Us from Evil.
Mommy.
The disruption and disequilibrium aspects of the narrative convey this to the audience as I change the lighting dramatically from the initial scenes, a convention I became particularly familiar with when analysing The Conjuring and Evil Dead. I used
Oh my god! Why did you do that?
I developed the narrative from The Last Exorcism. The story follows a particularly conventional storyline in terms of the idea that a young girl has been possessed by a demon spirit. It could be argued that I have challenged these conventions by using a male protagonist character, and he isn't made out to be vulnerable. However, we are starting to see recent films that have also started to challenge the idea of the innocent girl in films such as Deliver Us from Evil. I believe this concept has proven successful, as a strong male character increases the scare factor, as it proves that anyone can be harmed. To accentuate the narrative and make the storyline evident to the audience, I used genre conventions, putting Rick Altman's theory into place, with the idea of a somatic and synaptic elements. I used conventional iconography within my trailer to represent the genre of supernatural horror, as I used props such as a demonic symbol, priest costume, and beer pong and beer bottles to represent the age of characters used during the equilibrium stage. I found that conventionally films such as Evil Dead use the idea of physical objects containing a form of demonic spirit, therefore I decided to use this convention. The main character in the film is represented in a conventionally supernatural way, in terms of portraying his look as though he is in his world of his own and is oblivious to what is happening, a convention I noticed initially in Sinister and The Last Exorcism. As the demonic force takes over his body, the audience is able to see his mental change, as he becomes more of an antagonist character. Conventions I have used are conventional in connoting the supernatural genre. The trailer has been shot in a house with a flashback to a haunted barn, as is shown to be abandoned and derelict. The convention of supernatural horror films, as it conveys the idea of loneliness and isolation, this convention can be seen in many horror films, including The Conjuring, The Last Exorcism and Evil Dead, which bring a sense of home invasion. I have developed conventions in terms of the establishing shots of the trailers. Conventionally, the establishing shots normally show a state of equilibrium seen in the Last Exorcism trailer, but that doesn't convey the supernatural genre at all. I've included a panning shot which is linked to the beginning of the disruption phase in my trailer and uses a damaged TV effect to show that there is an interference with the camera. I have used the conventions of this effect from the Last Exorcism trailer as to show that there is an evil presence, and adds to the handheld camera effect. The handheld camera is a convention I use throughout the whole trailer, as it connotes the idea of disequilibrium and keeps the audience on edge, as they may perhaps feel as though they are part of the action. This would fundamentally encourage the audience to watch the film itself, if the audience feel interested and engaged in the narrative, and can be seen in the Conjuring trailer, but I have developed this convention as it is only used in the first couple of shots. To increase the tension in my trailer, I use the convention of fast-paced soundtrack, which heightens the sound from the start of the montage to the end of the trailer. This is shown in the Evil Dead trailer.
You are all going to die tonight.
I read
clear the passage from the...
This leaves the audience on the edge of their seat. This is accompanied by increasingly shortening cut edits to connote the atmosphere within the shots.
What the hell? Something's wrong with Luke.
What's that on your arm?
I command you to go back to hell.
Contrapuntal dialogue is another convention element within my trailer. I recognise that trailers such as Sinister and The Last Exorcism use this form of sound to help reveal parts of the narrative to the audience. However, the planning stages of the coursework reveal the narrative in two different ways. The Last Exorcism reveals the narrative through the use of captions, and Sinister reveals the narrative through the use of news reporter.
Of a local family found earlier this...
Therefore, I decided to use both as it was beneficial to show the backstory of my film as well as what was happening in the present.
Hey, it's Jay. Meet us at the place when you get this message.
I command you to go back to hell.